In this video, I'm going to be talking about personal trauma and how our upbringing affects our ability to self-realize, connect, and to serve. Because we are like cells in a body, when we are born, we immediately reach out into our environment to draw in nourishment. We are like seeds reaching our roots into the earth and branches up into the sky to soak in this new earth plane and to calibrate us for the physical world. So this is our first go at receiving information about learning who we are and what we're here to do by the information around us. When we do this, we build connections to everything around us. This is a really good and healthy thing. The problem arises when our environment is unhealthy. And any unhealthy environment is unhealthy because it is operating out of separateness. Any level of dysfunction or lack of thriving comes from some level of belief in disconnect. A hyper-controlling environment or a chaotic environment, an anxious parent or a depressed parent, even if they are doing the very best they can, even if you have a loving relationship with them, it still teaches disconnection. And it teaches you to have faith in the dysfunctional over your own guidance and wisdom. And the guidance and wisdom that you might receive from the whole of creation. And this is the most common kind of anti-connection training. It teaches us to either model whatever dysfunctional habits or to balance them. In either case, you are trying to survive in a small dysfunctional system rather than tuning in to your nature and the calling coming from the whole of the universe for your divine expression. This puts you in the habit of reacting to things that aren't real. So let's say you're raised to fear God. Even if you later learn and believe in a loving creator, you will likely still have the habit of fear. Or maybe you feel called to be an artist. You feel called to serve the world through your artistic expression. But you learned from your parents suppressing their passions that it's not practical to do what you love and you need to go be an accountant. The training you receive inside the small dysfunctional world will often override what you experience as a calling. This kind of connection block is experienced by pretty much everyone to some extent. Because the faith in isolation is so strong on the planet right now, we all carry a bit of it. This habit can be reversed, though, by forming new habits out of our faith in connection. The second kind of training we receive is acute trauma. This is when something happens that teaches us it is not safe to connect at all. You can look at it as if one of your roots gets temporarily cut off from you. Now, I want to say this over and over. You cannot actually be disconnected, but you can lose expression of connection. You can lose your faith in connection and thus deny both your purpose and the loving universal life force that feeds us all. And this is what happens when we experience trauma. We literally block off part of ourselves that experience the trauma. But because no matter what happens, nothing real can be made unreal. This loss is temporary. When we consciously bring the loving truth of our connection back to those parts of ourselves that have been cut off, we heal, and in our wholeness, we're able to self-realize, serve, and flourish. There are many ways that these lessons show up in our lives, whether they came from growing up in a dysfunctional environment or from acute trauma. You may notice thoughts or feelings that feel like they're not even yours. Like you can see yourself thinking things that you don't actually believe. Another way to see this disconnection training showing up in your life is to notice unhealthy patterns or addictions. This is a way that we try and compensate for the lack of real emotional and spiritual nourishment. Or it may show up as chronic illness or a lack of direction. like we've been talking about with life purpose. It may seem just like you have bad luck, but it's actually you being out of tune with your environment. And while these exact lessons impact you in really unique ways, the underlying theme is always a feeling of disconnection, depression, and fear. In the next video, we will be going deeper into the healing process and how to create habits in line with the universal flow of well-being.